Hey there, Stitchers. Debbie Hodge from StitchStories.com. Today I want to talk to you about stitching tips for Easter Fluffle and some insight into the design of this. Even though it is snowing, big gloppy snow right now at my house, I'm still thinking ahead to Easter. So with Easter Fluffle, one thing that I want to point out to you, especially if you're thinking about choosing your own colors, is that this design has two color palettes that come together as one color palette. So the bunnies are stitched with a carnation, a light pink, and a light blue. Then the eggs are stitched with a yellow, apricot, and avocado. See? Two different color schemes. And yet they come together. And then the yellow and apricot are used in the center too. I think of that as representing an Easter basket in there. And the reason that this is important and that it works is because it keeps things from being visually confusing. The eye can immediately see, oh yes, those go together. Oh yes, they're one layer. And then the eggs go together and they're a layer behind it. So that's something that those distinct color schemes help us do. Another thing that kind of cues the eye is I've used contrast in how I've outlined the eggs versus how I've outlined the bunnies. So the eggs are outlined with backstitch. The backstitch has each stitch is very discreet. You see it, there's no overlapping. No stitch overlaps another or goes into another, so the stitches are very discreet. So that's the eggs, they're outlined with backstitch. The bunnies are outlined with split stitch. With split stitch, every stitch is going in through the middle of the previous stitch. So you've got overlap, you've got a thicker stitch, you've got a denser line. And of course they're done in different colors, but there's also just that difference in texture that unites and differentiates. I like using the split stitch for the bunnies, so when I'm doing my denser outlining stitches, I either use the outline, or some people know it as the stem stitch, or I use the split stitch. I choose the split stitch when I've got these really tight curves. Like if I use the outline stitch when it came to the part where I'm going around the bunny's nose, there's a tendency for the stitches to sort of pull in and you don't get as crisp a line outlining things. The other thing I do when I'm using split stitch because of these tight curves is I'll usually use the fly stitch in really tight spots. So I use the fly stitch at the tip of the ears and in between the two ears. With the kit, you'll get a stitching guide that'll show you exactly how to make a fly stitch, how to make a split stitch, how to make a back stitch. So you'll see how to make those. And the split stitch is a lot like the back stitch. I create it the same way, right? There's a short stitch and then I come up a little bit away from it, and usually with the back stitch I would go in exactly where the other stitch ended. With the split, I go through the previous stitch, then come up a little way away, go through the previous stitch. That's how I do the split stitch. Some people come up through. I like to go down through because it's just easier and faster than me. I'm somebody who stitches down and up with one stroke. I don't go down and pull it all the way through and then pull it up and all the way through. I'm a little bit of a lazy stitcher. I like to do it in one stroke. So one more spot where you're going to use that split stitch is around the hearts. Notice how the blue bunnies have a different thing, a different little medallion cluster than the blue-eared bunnies are a little different than the carnation-eared bunnies. So with that heart, stitch that with a split stitch, and then those lazy daisies in it, do them next because they should overlap. They should just come a little bit out. It's like they're tacking the heart down. And then there's a fly stitch. It's hard to see here, a light blue fly stitch in each intersection. And then within them, some pink rays. And then very similar cluster over here on these. Oh, the other thing is about the bunnies, stitch the filling for the ear. Stitch the ears before you outline the bunny because it's tight. It's a tight spot. So yeah, I think that's about it on here. Fun design. It looks really good with our other spring designs, and that's because there's some overlap in colors and in design. So here's Lucky Circle. You see the yellow and the apricot that's used for the claddagh ring? That same yellow and apricot is used here on Easter Fluffle. The green on Easter Fluffle is not used over here, but that's okay. There's enough overlap with that yellow and apricot, and then it works really nicely with Rainy Day, which also uses the apricot and the yellow and the carnation from Easter Fluffle, and then it uses a green from Lucky Circle. Another thing is, if you notice, so these two are both built with a radially repeating design, kind of like a mandala. And then this, and they each have this sort of waffly, there's sort of a waffle in the middle, a waffle on these leaves, and again, the tote bag in Rainy Day has that same waffle. It's like a layered backstitch grid. So yeah, one more thing to tell you. People had asked me about ornaments for their trees. So we took the egg from Easter Fluffle, the 2 different egg styles, and they are printed on this sticky backed wash away fabric. So what you do is you, the eggs are 3 inches high, you adhere it to a piece of fabric, you stitch, and then you wash away the pattern. So you might stitch this to really thick felt and maybe back it with another layer of felt to make it stiff enough, or you could do a layer of embroidery and then just a backing, like make a little pillow and stuff it for eggs to hang on your trees. You tell me, you show me how you end up using these. But there's 8 of these eggs in this pattern for the bunnies. You get directions how to stitch it. On the back of here are all the stitch how-tos also. So yeah, happy Easter. May your bunnies be fluffily.